Hi guys, I'm Dani West with In-Depth Physiotherapy. I'm a dance physio in Calgary and Canmore, and this is the official first episode of the SOAPBOX. So I've been meaning to create a video blog here for a couple years now. Wanted to call it the SOAPBOX just to keep it super generic. It's just basically a platform where I wanted to share some of the things that I'm passionate about and also share some of the information I find that I'm kind of almost sounding like a broken record with patients. So just to get information out there a bit quicker. Please leave me any comments if you'd love to hear about a topic for a SOAPBOX episode, let me know. And I'd love to incorporate it somehow. So this is for you guys, be it dance teachers, dancers, even regular Joes. So without further ado, the topic for today is say no to chest stands. So for all the regular Joes out there who have no idea what a chest stand is, I'll kind of walk you through it. I'm not going to demo it, but my little mannequin here is. So basically, in the dance world, we've had this thing called acro, or acrobatics, kind of come into the dance studios. So there's a really gray area nowadays between dance and gymnastics. It's been around for about 5-6 years, and I feel like it's here to stay. One of the great things about what's kind of developed as acros become more popular is there's been acro kind of teacher certification programs, which I think is awesome. Like having some kind of standard of strength, technique, and teaching teachers how to teach this stuff, because it's important and it can be quite dangerous, some of the movements. So the one thing about acro that I always like caution people with is mainly the contortionist-like positions. And I find a chest stand isn't even kind of the worst type, but it's one of those ones that it's putting the joint in an extreme position and there's really no way to modify it because of the design. So I'll show you here. So basically, have our little dude Joe here. So kids basically start with their hands kind of flat on the ground. So their head is here, they're basically face down. But their neck has to be like an extreme hyperextension here. So their chin is essentially resting on the ground. They start to move their hips up, essentially over their shoulders, and it can get to be so full out that the feet actually end up on the floor right by their head. So you can imagine the amount of extension not only going on in the low back itself, but also the neck. And so you can Google this. There's a bunch of different demos online, I'm sure, of people Instagramming doing a chest stand, but there's nowhere else for the head to go, just by design. So this is what I don't like, is this amount of extreme hyperextension of the spine. So I'm gonna go over just a little bit more of a detailed demo with the actual spine. We'll let Joe have a bit of a rest. His neck's already a little sore from that. So basically with the spine here, quick and dirty little anatomy, we have the skull, we have the cervical spine, we have the thoracic spine in the middle, and we have the lumbar, and then we have the sacrum, also known as like the tailbone, and our hip joints here. So notice the difference in size. We have our cervical, very small, thoracic a little bit bigger, lumbar a little bit thicker. They're designed this way based on their function. So cervical spine, they're small, they're made for mobility, not necessarily stability. Whereas the lumbar spine, very thickened vertebrae to kind of bear all that weight through the pelvis, made for stability, not necessarily mobility. So with the cervical spine, even though it can technically get into hyperextension, doesn't mean we should hang out there and do it a million times in a row. So if we break down a chest stand again with our kind of enlarged Joe spine, basically the chin is kind of cranked forward on the floor, and you can see how much extension that's putting the neck in. And then essentially the hips kind of move up and over. And technically the kids should be bearing more weight on their arms, but even still, just having the neck in that position, whether there's a lot of weight going through it or not, you do that over and over and over, something's gonna break down here. So I like to compare the spine to like kind of using my paperclip analogy. So if you take a paperclip, you bend it over and over and over a million times, what happens? It breaks. Now, I'm not saying the spine is going to break in half per se, but what does happen with the spine, because it's designed with all these little vertebrae or like Lego blocks, every time you kind of hinge at a certain spot over and over and over, and you will have favorite places that you like to bend from, every time you do that, if you do that over and over and over, paperclip analogy, what happens is those Lego blocks start to move more than they should. And that's what we call in physio as an instability. So what is the spine designed to protect? Essentially, its main function is to protect the spinal cord. So do we really want to develop an instability or cause these vertebrae to move more than they technically should? I would say no, and especially not if you're 9, 10, 11 years old, your bones aren't even fully formed yet. Do we want to predispose these kids to an instability? I would say no. So with any kind of, and I'm not blaming acro, there are certain movements, there's a proper way to do them. And then there's some, like the contortionist moves, I find there's not really any way we could modify or kind of get really good technique and protect the body with some of these moves. Chest stance happens to be one of the ones it's not a fan favorite because there's no other place for your neck. You ultimately have to be in that extreme hyperextension of the neck, which predisposes you to an instability because you have to hinge there to kind of do that movement. So anyways, I always say, if you've come to see me, you're a dancer, I pretty much will tell all of my dancer patients, if you can avoid chest stands, please do. There's so many other things that you could choreograph in your acro piece or even your regular dance routines, but if you can avoid chest stands, again, please do. I don't feel like we need to kind of predispose these kids to an instability. So anyways, that is my soapbox moment for today as to why chest stands are not my favorite. So if you can avoid them, and please don't teach yourself at home or do them a million times. Because like I said, made up of Lego blocks, and so we just don't want to risk that instability. So anyways, I hope you'll tune in next week. I'm planning on doing a little blurb on the core and how it is not the same thing as abs. And again, I'll kind of integrate why the core is important for the regular Joe and also for the dancer, especially if they're doing kind of these extreme acro positions like that. So anyways, thanks so much. I'm Dani West with In-Depth Physio, and this is the Soapbox.